Hello, my name is Maria Dikcis, and I'm a college fellow in the Department of English. And this semester, I taught an undergraduate seminar called Race in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. And we were really trying to think in this class beyond the current hype around AI by examining how the history of artificial intelligence can look quite different when told from the perspective of minoritized communities. So in this class, students use generative AI, both text and image-based tools, to really think about how this AI that seems quite impressive and shiny and new on the surface can actually help us to think about rather old problems in different ways. So part of that entails ensuring that students are developing a kind of critical AI literacy and understanding how these tools can, in fact, reproduce and embed longstanding forms of bias and discrimination. But in a kind of more practical sense, I've also found that this AI can help students to reassess skills that have always been at the heart of humanistic thinking and literary studies in particular. So skills like close reading and evidence-based argumentation and cultural sensitivity. So for instance, for one assignment called Me versus ChatGPT, students wrote an analytical essay on a primary literary text of their choice, and then they had ChatGPT write an essay on the same exact topic. So for instance, when students were interacting with ChatGPT, they might input a prompt along the lines of something like, write a 500-word essay on Ted Chiang's The Life Cycle of Software Objects. So this was one of the novellas that we read in the class. So then they see what ChatGPT is capable of coming up with. I've noticed this is the second time I've taught this assignment, and I've noticed different trends in terms of the format ChatGPT essays take, its strength in argumentation. So after students write their own essay and then also have ChatGPT write an essay on the same exact text, they produce a very brief two-page kind of compare and contrast reflection on what the experience was like for them. If you've ever produced a ChatGPT essay or you read one yourself, you know that large language models are not really great at producing argument-driven essays. And sometimes it's easier for students to recognize the flaws in somebody else's writing than it is for them to see those flaws in their own writing. And in these reflections, I've also noticed that students pick up on the fact that ChatGPT more often than not is not capable of talking about things like race and identity and culture with any nuance. So in a way, the essays are kind of giving students a model to avoid as they're learning themselves how to handle these very complex topics with more sensitivity. So what I've realized by using this assignment is that students actually develop a newfound appreciation for human thought and human creativity and vulnerability as well.